I want to start on behalf of my Global Aon colleagues, Lord Mayor, just an absolute privilege and honor to have you here and support this initiative and this effort. We truly appreciate it, and for your participation in the event. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. I also want to extend my thanks and appreciation to all of you for joining us here today. This is an extraordinary, truly extraordinary group of leaders here with us. Diverse array of interests ranging from industry, public sector, NGOs, and other organizations that have really earned a reputation for driving positive social impact around the world. Quite extraordinary. And it's appropriate and necessary, candidly, that we're convening this distinguished and influential group with such a vast scope, because as we all know, make no mistake, the challenge we're addressing is formidable. From typhoons in Japan, flooding in the United States and China, hurricanes in the Caribbean, and 2019 was another year of devastating natural disasters around the globe. In all, 409 events resulted in economic losses last year of $232 billion. Private sector and government-sponsored insurance programs covered, as Lord Mayor highlighted, $71 billion of that total. $71 billion. $71 billion for more than $232 billion in losses in a single year. And that leaves a protection gap. That's the portion of economic losses obviously not covered by insurance. Again, as the Lord Mayor highlighted, nearly 70%. And understand, this is not an isolated development, nor even necessarily a new problem. Over the past decade, by the way, the costliest on record, uninsured losses surpassed $1.3 trillion. It's also noteworthy that some parts of the world are far more vulnerable than others. More than 90% of the catastrophe losses are uninsured, for example, in parts of Asia, Latin America, and Africa. And the protection gap places an immense financial strain, as we know, on governments, businesses, communities, and individuals. Yet again, the financial impact is only one aspect of the toll that these disasters inflict. We must also consider the profoundly troubling humanitarian and social impact. Lives lost, communities compromised, and businesses, as well as individual livelihoods, disrupted. And while we can't prevent future earthquakes, typhoons, wildfires, and floods, if it were in our power to do more in assisting these communities in preparing, protecting, and then recovering from disaster, are we not compelled to act? And considering the magnitude of the challenge, a solution, again, as the Lord Mayor highlighted, is well beyond any individual leader, organization, or even sector. We have absolute conviction, though, that collectively, and that's what this room is all about, collectively we can make a difference. And that's why we're here today. I will highlight on behalf of Aon, it is our distinct honor to host this day of discussion with all of you as we consider how to share our knowledge and resources. As we do, we want to try to build trust, learn to collaborate more effectively, and ultimately make great strides, make progress toward closing the protection gap. I want to quote Henry Ford, maybe the wrong form, but Henry Ford, one of the great industrialists of our time, and a real visionary when you thought about bringing people together, said, "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success." And no doubt, coming together is a beginning. With the discussions beginning at this gathering, our hope is that we'll forge a shared commitment to new ways of collaborating that will allow us to build resilience at scale. Each sector represented at this gathering brings a unique perspective, capabilities, different resources that can be directed toward this challenge. The global finance industry, again as highlighted, for example, is already playing an important role, a very substantial role. We believe we can do even more. Significant sources of additional capital, as Dominic highlighted, are available now to assist the public sector in transferring risk and developing greater resilience. With emerging technology, growing expertise in data analytics, and other innovations, we have incredibly sophisticated capabilities allowing us to address this risk. Better than ever, we're able to determine the greatest opportunities and most efficient means to transferring risk. We urge you in the finance industry, the global finance industry, specifically insurance and reinsurance firms, to direct your capabilities and the brightest members of your team to take on this challenge. Understand the expertise and perspective that government leaders have day to day, the insight they get when they're on the ground when disasters happen, what they see. Appreciate the situations they're managing and meet them. Come together in a way that brings new capabilities and resources to address their needs. For those of you in the public sector, a thought. Understand, we have the greatest respect for your commitment to serving the citizens you represent. We realize you must balance any competing demands to meet the needs of today while investing in the opportunities for the future, all the while acting as good stewards for the resources available to your communities. We'd urge you, though, be open to the assistance others can provide, specifically from the private sector. Help raise awareness about the importance of the protection gap. Consider the opportunities of what could be achieved with stronger collaboration with the insurance and reinsurance firms around the world and others in the global finance community. And I will say to you, we are optimistic. We're enthusiastic about the possibilities that this could yield. As we all know very well, putting protection in place in advance of disaster brings benefits beyond easing the burden on taxpayer-supported government treasuries. In the aftermath of a catastrophe, government funds, foreign aid, and philanthropic support can take months or longer to materialize, delaying the reconstruction work that must occur before citizens in the affected communities are able to resume their lives. This is just not theory. We know this. We know for a fact that it works, and I will highlight AAM was privileged to collaborate with the World Bank to put in place a very novel approach in Latin America as one example. Right now, countries such as Peru, Colombia, Chile, and Mexico are now protected by a $1.4 billion catastrophe bond, the largest ever. In the event of an earthquake, with predetermined triggers associated with the bond, aid for reconstruction was available in only a few weeks following an 8.0 magnitude quake in Peru last year. Incredible. The World Bank Catastrophe Bond is a success story. It's proven, it works. We know it works. But we believe it can be replicated much more around the world. Think about the impact of that. A proven concept, how do we now scale it? Part of the discussion today. The power of having protection in place before disaster strikes can also be seen as we examine many contrasting experiences. They exist all over the world. I'm going to pick two, New Zealand and Nepal. In February 2011, a 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck the Canberra region of New Zealand. This was an economic and social disaster, with devastation claiming 185 lives, displacing thousands, and causing severe damage to homes, businesses, and roads. This highlighted the importance of infrastructure in resilience and how it could be one of the more vulnerable assets on a government's balance sheet. Now, contrast this. In Nepal 2015, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck in April, followed by another 7.3 magnitude quake in May. The destruction is difficult to comprehend as part of this event. More than 9,000 people were killed, tens of thousands injured, and 800,000 homes destroyed and damaged. I offer these examples, by the way, not to compare one level of tragedy with another. Every life we know is incredibly precious. Our hearts go out to the families in New Zealand and Nepal in any situation like this. But what would compound this tragedy, and we have a history of this, what compounds this is our failure to learn the lessons from these experiences. We've got to apply these learnings as part of this conversation so we can be better positioned to help others in the aftermath of a catastrophe. New Zealand has some of the highest levels of insurance adoption in the world and is internationally recognized for its mature insurance and reinsurance markets. With substantial protection in place, reconstruction was able to begin quickly and comprehensively. For its work, New Zealand is considered to be a strong model on how to do more to help families and communities recover and rebuild. In Nepal, where the protection gap was far more significant, the struggles, not surprisingly, are much greater. The country is making progress largely with support from international aid, but the recovery journey is going to be a long one. These contrasting experiences should serve as a call to action. We've got to learn from these. We know that more effective approaches are possible. They're applicable around the world. And back to Henry Ford. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. And we're taking the initial steps. With our discussion today, we're at the beginning. I will tell you we're looking forward to our progress and ultimately our success in closing the protection gap. I thank you again on behalf of Global AM for your attention and for your commitment to this incredibly important cause. So thank you very much. Truly appreciate it.